Okay, what the hell? What's the deal with Beethoven's Opus 131? I mean, I spent the entire day listening to it, at least it felt like the entire day, and all I have to say is why? Do we really need a 45-minute, 7-movement monstrosity of a string quartet? No, we don't. I mean, four movements, 5 minutes of movement, and call it a day. Jeez, Haydn wrote 100 string quartets, all way better than this, a third of the length. I just stop meandering all over the place and get to the point. This is why people thought that it was compiled from bits of paper by his publishers after he bit the dust. I get it, you're all brooding and deep and you got feelings to express, whatever nonsense. Doesn't mean you can't be brooding and deep and shut the hell up after 20 minutes. But that's not all. Now, what would a normal human being begin a 45-minute monstrosity of a string quartet with, do you think? A sonata form, perhaps? Nah. Too easy for little old Ludwig. He's got to go ahead and start with a fugue. A fugue? Why? Did Haydn ever start a multi-movement work with a fugue? No. Did Mozart ever start a multi-movement work with a fugue? No. Did Schubert, the greatest composer in the history of time? No. So, did Beethoven? Yes, once. Why? There's no need. Okay, let's be honest. Let's give credit where credit is due. The fugue at the end of Opus 131, it was terrible, but at least it was at the end. That work begins with a sonata form, ends with a fugue, and has references throughout to the ending fugue. I mean, it's almost like Opus 131, whose immediately after was some kind of complementary opposite with an opening fugue, an ending sonata, and references backwards to the fugue. At least it would be if you didn't muck it up with a huge theme and variations right in the middle. Let's move past the offensiveness of the very existence of the fugue. So there's 7 movements and 7 key areas. The key areas move in stepwise motion outwards in an expanding wedge from C sharp. C sharp to D, B, A, E, G sharp, and then back to C sharp. Sounds awful, I know, bear with me, it gets worse, I swear. So what keys does Beethoven happen to casually explore in the opening fugue of Great Offense? Exactly those, in exactly that order. The idea of venturing to these insane keys with such a maddening structural system is absurd. But when you add the fact, the idea that this structure is built upon the key areas explored in an opening first movement fugue, well, that's a step too far. As Beethoven himself once said, what? Yeah, he was deaf, hearing completely gone. I mean, ear horn in hand, writing book inside, he continues to compose. Does he even know what a major triad sounds like at this point? I doubt it. Music sounds different on the page than on the concert stage. And I'm sure it sounded different in his own head. I mean, this isn't radical. We've seen radical Beethoven. But structural ideas like this just don't exist. They shouldn't exist ever. Like, why can't he take a page out of Schubert's book and just stick to the status quo? I mean, isn't conformity better than coming up with crap like this? And again, we circle back. Why? Why begin with a fugue when no one else does? And why use it as a cornerstone to build an immense structure of immeasurable, unfathomable magnitude? You could say it was his late life obsession with Bach, striving to master various forms of motivic development, trying to reconcile the major forms of his late life sonata, theme, and variations in fugue, or that it was an indulgence allowing him to create structures of such intense intellectual complexity that it created a musical utopia, which allowed him to take intellectualism so far that it became a musical aesthetic in and of itself. Look, it's David Blaine's Street Magician. I'm gonna screw up so many times. Sorry. Oh. Do we really need a 45-minute, 7-movement, smorgasbord of style string quartet? No, we don't. Stop meandering all over the place and get to the point. This is why people thought that it was. This is why people God. God damn it. Music sounds different on the page than on the concert stage. I can't say that with immeasurable, unfathomable magnitude. Trying to master various forms of motivic development and allow okay. Yeah, completely deaf. I mean,